Advanced Persistent Threat, as widely known as APT, is basically a kind of attack that we keep seeing it quite recently in the past few years, where basically what they do is they take either, the simple way is to take the existing sort of weaknesses in the system using existing exploit to attack your system, or if they couldn't succeed in that, what they do is they actually create customized targeted attacks at enterprise or government so that they can penetrate into your computer networks and get themselves entrenched inside your computer system. They stay stealthy, and that's where the word persistent come in, meaning they stay in your system generally for years without anyone noticing them. And that is the characteristics of advanced persistent threat, which the main purpose is largely to either to compromise your computer system, or more importantly is to steal sensitive, confidential information from your enterprise IT system. The traditional ways of a lot of companies use basically are just simply anti-malware. I mean, they have the traditional antivirus, the firewall, the IPS, IDS, and various other kind of system patching and so on to try to prevent malware from getting into the system. Unfortunately, these solutions are not very useful against APT. I mean, they are okay for the general malware, but when it comes to APT, they always can find holes within the computer system that you have and manage to penetrate the system and get themselves entrenched in your computer system without you knowing for years. Okay, so what we have done in SecureAge is to develop a solution which we call 3P data protection solutions. The 3P basically represent three words start with P. The first one is proactive, the second one is pervasive, and the third one is persistent. The proactive basically says that the data protection solutions that we are providing is based on policy rules that make it automatically help you to protect your data without you having to do anything. Okay, and this makes the solution transparent to the users, make it really easy to use, and more importantly, it removes the weakest link in your security architecture, basically the human, from the equation, so that the system will stay protected regardless of what the user is doing. The pervasive aspect of the protection basically says that the data is protected everywhere, regardless of where the data is being stored. Okay, be it on the local drives, your removable drives, or even your network file servers. The data will remain as protected as it travels to any of these storage systems. Hence, there's no a weak link in terms of your data when they are put in certain places. And the last one is the persistent aspect of the 3P data protection system. What it does is that it's fully protected your data not only when it's at rest, meaning stored in the storage system, but when it's moving around within your enterprise network. What we have done with the 3P data protection is to combine it with what we call application whitelisting and application binding technology. Okay, and these are together used to prevent things like zero-day attack, things like low-level rootkit, and various other kinds of attacks. By definition of zero-day attack, it means that the standard anti-malware cannot detect such attack. In fact, for an attacker to carry out zero-day attack, they normally run it through all the standard anti-malware system in the market. You buy the antivirus software and you run it, okay, it cannot detect it and so on. And then they will send the zero-day attack out to the end users. So therefore, zero-day attack is by definition not detectable by standard anti-malware system. And there are two classes of zero-day attack. One simple one is those that is a zero-day attack malware executable, in which you run it at the end user system and use that to penetrate the end user system. Okay, but this kind of zero-day attack is quite easy to catch because you can run something called application whitelisting, in which the malware will be detected as untrusted application and it will not be allowed to run or execute in the user system. The more tricky one are zero-day attack in which they load themselves into standard documents like a PDF file, like Excel or spreadsheet, and trick the user into loading them into your, let's say, Adobe Reader, which is a trusted application. But once it's loaded, it actually compromises your software in memory, and suddenly your Adobe Reader become a malware and it start attacking your system. And that is where the solutions that the 3P protection come in. The specific component is called the application binding. The application binding basically does this binding of documents to application. For instance, we can bind the Microsoft Word document. Anything that ends with .doc or .docx files can only be opened by, say, Microsoft Word application. So when you set up this kind of binding, what it means is that if your Adobe Reader or your Internet Explorer or your browser get compromised, they will not be able to access your sensitive Word documents. And therefore, even though you have zero-day attack on your system, your data is still safe. The real tough zero-day attack are things that none of the anti-malware people know about it. The application that will be compromised, the vendors doesn't know about it, and therefore there's zero defense against it in the entire world. There's no signatures, there's no known patterns of how this thing will attack your system, and therefore when it gets loaded into your system, you will be compromised. And that's the most advanced type of malware, APT. They use zero-day. But zero-day is expensive, so people don't use it that easily because it costs a lot of money. In fact, you can buy and trade zero-day attack on the underground market. Alright? A lot of hackers, they actually sell other people zero-day attack. And so people who want to carry out sophisticated attack, they will buy the zero-day attack and bundle into the attack and then attack the users. So they will use the cheaper solution first, trying to find out whether you have any known vulnerability in which you haven't patched, and I will use that first. Okay? Only when that doesn't work, then they have no choice but to go zero-day. And by definition, APT is carried out by people who have deep pocket, who have resources. They can afford. They can afford to buy those things. The 3P technology, data protection technology, starts out as a data protection solutions, in which we try to protect against data leakage by proactively encrypting all the user data, regardless of where they goes to within your enterprise network. Okay, this solution is actually quite widely used by the government and large enterprise, because what it does is it helps you to prevent either accidental data leakage because of carelessness of your end user, or even insider attacks who really want to try to copy out your data. But what we do is we actually make sure whatever data people take away remains as encrypted, and therefore without the key to access them, you can't actually open the data, you can't access the data. And subsequently, we realized, unfortunately, that it doesn't still protect against malware, especially the advanced malware, in stealing your data. And that's when we start adding this new component called application whitelisting and application binding, which together we call it an integrated defense. And it can really help you not to just prevent accidental leakage, but also intentional by insiders, or intentionally trying to steal the data by the malware and APT. And that is how we actually came to this total solution with 3P, data protection technology plus application whitelisting and application binding. Low-level rootkit are a kind of advanced malware in which it will stay in your system. They will stay in your system without being detectable by your any anti-malware engine. It could be antivirus, it could be application whitelisting. And the design of rootkit is basically saying that you cannot see me, but I can see your entire system. How do you prevent that? They can get into your system in many different ways. And the assumption in APT always been that you are going to get compromised and the malware is going to end up in your system. But can you protect your data? And in our case, we can. The reason is the following. By combining the data protection technology and the application whitelisting technology, we create a layer within your operating system. Any malware that's sitting on top, trying to read your data, will be detected by our application whitelisting engine and will block you from even running in the first place. But how about the low-level rootkit? They can run and you don't even know them. But by not going through our engine, it also doesn't go through the engine to decrypt the data. Therefore, whatever data that I can see in the system are all fully encrypted, and they will not be able to access your sensitive data without going through us. But if they go through us, we'll block them. So basically what it does, it achieves the purpose of preventing really advanced low-level kind of malware from accessing or stealing your sensitive data. There's another type of malware which is quite simple to do, is that if I get a malware into your system, the first thing I do is I disable your anti-malware engine. So if you disable the anti-malware portion of our system, our entire system is disabled, which means that no one else is going to help you to decrypt any of the data in your system. So you can have all the malware in the world, but whatever data you access now are all fully encrypted. And therefore, yes, you can disable me, but you can't get at my data. The public sectors are particularly vulnerable from attackers who are either state-sponsored or some political extremists. Okay, those are the people who will attack the government infrastructures. The attackers for commercial or large enterprise will be slightly different. They may be going in there just for commercial value, financial exploitation and things like that. But essentially, governments and large enterprise are equally vulnerable and to APT attacks. The APT attacks will be increasingly more frequent for the government, probably simply because APT attacks is a lot cheaper than sending spies or carrying out a war with another states. Okay, so you don't have to worry about people being caught. If you send spies, people will catch you. In general, we find that most companies actually just simply try to copy what other companies have done and not really knowing exactly the kind of security threats that they are facing and trying to address them. And so I think the most important things for most of the enterprise to do is to really hire very qualified IT security managers and professionals so that they can make the right decision as to the kind of security solution, the security process that you need to put in place in order to protect your enterprise critical information and sensitive data. The interesting thing about IT security is that our attackers are humans and they will keep thinking out of new ways to attack you. In fact, we have seen a trend in which, given the pervasiveness of antivirus engine and things like that, and that's why the APT is now emerging, and their sole target is to bypass all this antivirus software that people have put in place and so on and so forth by creating zero-day attack, by creating rootkit and so on and so forth, which cannot be stopped by antivirus software. So if you just simply think that my good old firewall, my good old antivirus software is useful, they are not useful, because how does APT get into enterprise today? A large portion of APT get into enterprise by sending your employee an email. The email may have an attachment, it may have a hyperlink. Whichever the user click on it and your system get compromised straight away. Do you have any defense against your firewall will allow the email to come in, and they will craft the attachment and link in such a way that your IPS, IDS will not catch it, your antivirus will not see it, and you have to depend on the human not to click. Okay, so of course we train the user, never click links or attachment from people you don't know. And the hackers become smarter. They will spoof the email so that it comes from people that you know. Alright, your friends or your HR department or someone else that you trust, and you will still get fooled into clicking the link and you'll be compromised. And once a machine has been compromised in your enterprise network, the attackers now have freedoms to roam within your entire enterprise network now, because there's no more firewall in between machine to machine, and people tends to trust the internal network and therefore are not really looking into what kind of malware that has been running around. And so one of the things that APT has taught us is that a good way to start looking at security nowadays is to assume that you have already been compromised. What are you going to do? Buying the same solution again and again doesn't really solve the security problem. Attackers always come in with a new technology, new methods of attacking you, and they will get through. Another way is to believe that you're not important enough to be attacked. Okay, we have seen a new patterns in which the cyber criminals are attacking not just a large enterprise. And of course, the most common one is a company that does not practice good security policy, security process. They don't do frequent patching of their computer systems. They don't have user education of teaching them how to not be foolish, to be fooled into clicking any kind of attachment that's coming into the email. And they don't review their logs that they collect. I mean, they have a lot of software that collect all kinds of security logs, but nobody actually look at them. So these are basically companies that potentially just buy some software and they do not execute properly how to actually secure their system.